In a small fishing village on the coast of the Philippines, the sound of crashing waves was all most people heard each morning. But from a tiny wooden shack at the end of the beach came something different, something magical. It was the voice of a young boy named Renz, singing along with a battered old guitar that had only 5 strings left. His voice wasn't just a sound, it was a feeling, raw, deep, and full of life's struggles. Every morning before school, if he even managed to go, Renz sat on an overturned bucket near the water and sang his heart out. His father had passed away 2 years ago in a fishing accident, and his mother sold vegetables in the nearby market. They barely made enough to eat once a day, but Renz had something that no one could take away from him, music. It was his escape, his dream, and maybe, his way out. One afternoon, as he played, Hotel California, by the Eagles, the melody drifted through the salty air, catching the attention of a tourist who was filming the beautiful sunset. The man, an American named Mark, turned his camera and saw the boy strumming the guitar, barefoot, with eyes closed, completely lost in the song. Mark was amazed. He approached Renz, recorded the moment properly, and asked him, "Do you know how good you are?" Renz looked down shyly and replied, "I just love to sing, sir. My papa taught me this song before he left." Mark smiled. "You sound like someone who should be singing on a big stage, not on a beach." Renz laughed awkwardly. "That's impossible, sir. We don't even have a proper TV, only an old radio." But Mark wasn't joking. When he returned home to Los Angeles, he uploaded the video online with the title, "Poor Filipino Boy Covers Hotel California, Voice of an Angel." Within days, the video exploded. Millions of people watched it, shared it, and left comments like, "This boy has more soul than most professional singers," and, "Get this kid on America's Got Talent." Mark couldn't believe what was happening. Then, one morning, his inbox was flooded with messages, from producers, reporters, and even talent scouts. They all wanted to know, "Who is this boy? Where can we find him?" Mark knew what he had to do. He flew back to the Philippines with a simple goal, to find Renz again and give him the opportunity of a lifetime. When he arrived at the same beach, he saw the boy sitting in the same spot, still singing with that same passion. Mark walked up and said, "Renz, the world has heard you sing." Renz looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mark handed him his phone and showed him the video. Renz's jaw dropped as he saw millions of views, thousands of comments, and people calling him, the Filipino legend. Tears filled his eyes. "All these people watched me," he whispered. Mark nodded. "They didn't just watch. They want you to sing on America's Got Talent." Renz froze. "That's in America. I've never even been on a plane." Mark smiled. "Then it's time for your first flight. I've already arranged everything." A few weeks later, Renz found himself stepping off a plane at Los Angeles International Airport, holding his tiny guitar like a treasure. He couldn't believe the towering buildings, the bright lights, the fast cars. Everything was so big, so loud. And then, the day arrived, the day he would perform on one of the biggest stages in the world. As he walked into the AGT studio, he saw the audience, the cameras, and of course, the judges, Heidi Klum, Howie Mandel, Sofia Vergara, and the one he'd heard about from everyone, Simon Cowell. His heart pounded as he waited backstage, holding his mother's hand. She whispered, "No matter what happens, sing like Pop is listening, okay?" He nodded, fighting back tears. When it was his turn, he stepped onto the stage barefoot, just as he always sang back home. The crowd murmured softly, curious about this shy little boy with a small guitar. Simon looked at him and said, "Hello, what's your name?" "My name is Renz, sir. I'm from the Philippines." Simon smiled. "And how old are you, Renz?" 10 years old." The audience gasped softly. Simon asked again, "And what are you going to sing for us today?" Renz looked up, his voice trembling. "I'm going to sing, Hotel California, by the Eagles." There was a brief silence. Simon raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "That's quite a song choice. Why that one?" Renz took a deep breath. "My father used to sing it when we fixed our fishing nets. It reminds me of him." The crowd softened, and even Simon's expression changed. He nodded and said, "Okay, Renz. Let's hear it." Then, the stage went quiet. Renz closed his eyes and started strumming. The first notes echoed through the studio. His fingers moved carefully, but his voice, his voice, was unlike anything anyone had expected. Smooth, soulful, filled with emotion, he began to sing. On a dark desert highway, Cool wind in my hair. The audience fell silent. His tone was mature, hauntingly beautiful, every note carrying the pain and hope of his young life. By the time he reached the chorus, "Welcome to the Hotel California," the entire audience was on their feet, clapping along. Heidi covered her mouth, Sophia had tears in her eyes, and even Simon leaned forward, eyes wide, completely captivated. Renz didn't just sing the song, he lived it. He played with passion, his little fingers dancing on the strings like they were born for it. Every word, every line was filled with sincerity. When he reached the last verse, he slowed down, letting the music fade softly into silence. The final note hung in the air like a prayer. Then, absolute silence, followed by a thunderous standing ovation. People screamed his name. Heidi shouted, "You're unbelievable." Sophia clapped her hands, saying, "You made me cry." Howie smiled and said, "I don't know where that voice came from, but it's pure magic." And then, Simon leaned forward with a rare, genuine smile. "Renz," he said slowly, "I've been doing this show for a long time. I've seen hundreds of singers come and go. But you have something very special. Something that can't be taught. You sing with your heart." The crowd cheered louder, chanting, "Golden buzzer! Golden buzzer!" Simon looked at his fellow judges, then back at the boy. He whispered, "Let's make this moment unforgettable." He reached over and slammed the golden buzzer. The entire hall erupted in gold confetti. Renz stood frozen, eyes wide, as the golden rain fell over him. His mother ran on stage crying, hugging him tightly. Simon walked over and said, "You just changed your life, young man." Backstage, everyone was emotional. Crew members hugged him, fans wanted selfies, and Simon personally came to meet his mother. "You must be very proud," he said. She nodded through tears. "He sings for his father. That's all he ever wanted." Simon smiled softly. "Well, now he sings for the world." The performance went viral overnight. Millions of people watched it online. It became one of the most viewed AGT auditions in years. News outlets from around the world wrote about the poor Filipino boy who stunned Simon Cowell. Renz was invited to morning shows, radio stations, and even online interviews. But fame didn't change him. Every time he spoke, he thanked his mother, his late father, and Mark, the man who believed in him first. When the live shows began, Renz returned to the AGT stage. This time, he wore a simple black suit, but still carried his same little guitar. Simon introduced him by saying, "Sometimes you don't need fancy instruments, background dancers, or effects. You just need truth, and this boy has it." That night, Renz performed a soulful acoustic version of "Tears in Heaven." The entire studio was silent again, some people crying quietly as he sang. When he finished, the audience rose to their feet again, applauding for nearly 2 minutes straight. Even the judges couldn't hold back their emotions. Heidi said, "You are a gift from heaven." Sophia added, "I feel like your father is here with you, proud of what you've done." Simon simply said, "You remind us why we do this show." "Thank you for that." As the competition went on, Renz continued to amaze everyone with his song choices and emotional performances. He sang "Imagine" by John Lennon, "Let It Be" by the Beatles, and even did a stripped-down version of Bohemian Rhapsody that brought the house down. His journey wasn't just about talent, it was about heart. Every performance was a tribute to his father, his mother, and every child who dreams beyond poverty. When the finals came, the world was watching. Renz stood on stage, looking out at the massive audience. He took a deep breath and began singing his own original song, "Waves of My Father," a song he wrote in memory of his dad. The lyrics spoke of love, loss, and hope. "I still hear your song in the ocean's tide. In every wave, your voice won't hide. You told me, sing, my son, don't fear the night. And I'll keep singing till I find your light." The audience was in tears. Simon closed his eyes as Renz sang the final line, his voice trembling but powerful. When he finished, there was a long silence, then the loudest applause of the season. It wasn't just a performance. It was a story. It was pain turned into beauty. When the results were announced, Renz didn't win the trophy. But to the audience, to the world, he had already won hearts. Simon hugged him on stage and said, "Winning doesn't matter. What matters is you reminded millions of people that greatness can come from anywhere, even from a small fishing village." After the show, music producers reached out. Offers poured in from record labels, talk shows, and even movie studios. But Renz chose carefully. He said, I just want to make songs that make people feel something. He released his first single, Little Guitar, a heartfelt ballad about hope, dedicated to every kid who ever dreamed big. It became a hit across the Philippines and beyond. Months later, Simon invited Renz back to perform as a guest on AGT. When he walked out on stage, now more confident, with a new guitar gifted by the show, the audience erupted again. He smiled shyly and said, I just want to thank everyone who believed in me, especially Mr. Simon. Simon replied, No, Renz. Thank you for reminding us what real talent looks like. He performed, Hotel California, once more, the same song that started it all, but this time, with a live band, a choir behind him, and his mother watching proudly in the front row. When the last note faded, Simon stood up first, clapping slowly, then the entire crowd followed. After the show, Simon walked backstage and said something few had ever heard him say, You have the heart of a legend. Renz smiled and replied, My father used to say, sing like no one's listening. I think now, he's listening. That night, as Renz looked out of his hotel window at the city lights, he remembered the small shack by the beach where it all began, the broken guitar, the smell of the ocean, his mother's soft voice calling him for dinner. He whispered a quiet thank you to his father, to Mark, and to every person who shared his song. Months later, Renz returned to the Philippines. When he stepped onto that same beach, the villagers gathered around him. Some brought candles, some brought guitars, and everyone wanted to hear him sing again. He sat down on his old bucket, strummed the same tune, and sang, Hotel California, once more, this time, not for fame, not for cameras, but for the people who had believed in him from the start. His mother watched from the crowd, tears glistening in her eyes. The sunset painted the sky gold, just like the confetti that had fallen on him months earlier. When he finished, the entire village clapped and cheered. One little boy came forward and asked shyly, Can you teach me to play? Renz smiled, handing him the guitar. Of course, that's how music lives on. As years went by, Renz continued to perform around the world. He became an inspiration to millions, a symbol of hope, humility, and passion. But no matter where he went, he never forgot where it all began. In interviews, he always said, I'm just that poor boy from the beach who loved to sing for his father. Simon Cowell once said in a later episode, Every season, there's that one performance that stays with you forever. For me, it's that barefoot boy who sang, Hotel California, like it was written for him. Renz's journey wasn't just a story about talent, it was about faith, family, and the power of a single song to change a life. He proved that dreams don't belong only to the rich or the lucky. They belong to those who never stop believing. And in every concert he performed, he ended with the same words, If a poor kid like me can make it from a small village to this big stage, then you can too. Never stop singing your own song. That's the story of Renz, the poor Filipino boy who sang from his soul, touched millions of hearts, and made even Simon Cowell believe in miracles again.